making a new science called Pepperology. You guys all know mixology, you also know onology, cafeology or zytology for beers. So we came up with Pepperology as pepper. In the Pepperology, peppers refers to the Latin name. It is the pepper in Latin, it is pepper. So we've asked botanists, ethnobotanists and historians and also chefs to help us to understand what was a pepper. Because we had many questions. We wanted to know if there are any difference between two peppers. For example, a white pepper from Cameroon grown on a volcanic soil, is it different than a Sarawak pepper in Borneo Island where it grows on a sandy sand? But also the production way are different. So is there any difference in two peppers because of all those terroir effects? So such as wine, as I just said, we ask ourselves is there was any terroir effect on peppers? But first of all, we didn't want to be confusing tomato and zucchinis, so we asked botanists in Paris to tell us what was a pepper. And first definition for pepper is very simple. It was made by a naturalist called Carl von Linné from the 18th century. And he says that pepper comes from the Piperaceae family. He was looking at plants and also the morphology of the plants, and he says pepper is Piperaceae. Second definition is more interesting for you as you are very looking for new things. Second definition for pepper is a spice of round shape used for cooking, crushed with a mortar with a touch of piquancy. This second definition belongs to usage and also customs. This is the one that will open your mind. So for the last 5 years, we've been traveling around the world, and we've gone to Japan to see the Sancho pepper. We've gone to Chile in South America. We've gone to Iran to see if there were any peppers. We didn't find any, actually. We also went to to Cameroon, etc. So we've gone to many countries. And in our quest, we were very amazed by the answers we got. We found that some peppers are endemic. That means they only grow in some part of the world, nowhere else. Some peppers are wild. You cannot make it into plantations. You have to handpick them. Some grows in primary forest in Java Island, up the trees 10 meters high. So, and also what amazed us, it was the aromatic variety of peppers. Some peppers are very animalistic, some others have cherry fruity nuts. I will give you a few examples. The white penja pepper in Cameroon is very, very animalistic. It also, some people say it smells like horse poo. In Cambodia, you have a red compote pepper. It's very well known, you probably know it. It has cherry and fruity nuts. In Teli cherry, in India, they have a black Teli cherry pepper. It's spicy and more curry. And in Nepal, up in the mountain, up to 2,000 feet, you have to drive hours in, and also you have to sleep with the farmers to stay there and look at the harvest. Up there, they have endemic pepper called Timur, and it has a grapefruit taste. You also have in Ethiopia Timis pepper, and in order to dry it, they peel it and smoke it. They smoke it over a fire, so it is a very tobacco taste. And also one of my favorite is Kubebe pepper in Java Island. It grows in Yogyakarta, up in the trees 10 meters high, and it has nutmegs and mace spicy nuts. So all those peppers, you could easily use it and infuse it in your drinks, in champagnes or anything else. Thank you for listening.
In your gift bags, you have a pepper blend which Thibaut and the team at Exotic done especially for the Syposium. So I keep an eye on Instagram to see some nice, exciting recipes. Huh?
Speaking of ingredients, our next talk is co-hosted with Nonino. And in your gift bags, this morning, you should have received an apple. And as some of you have pointed out, it wasn't a very delicious apple, but it is a British apple. And I think that we all chase flavor in making drinks, and part of that is using ingredients around you. And we have our next speaker here to talk about why we should always preserve the heritage species, and why if they disappear, so does flavor. So please welcome to the stage Isabella Dalla Ragione.
Thank you to pour for invitation to present my activity and my foundation. Fondazione Archeologia Arborea. It's a long story, a long research. So I will give you just some impression of my long job. So the name Archeologia Arborea means arboreal archaeology. We chose this name because as the archaeologists reconstruct from a fragment a civilization, so in the same way we tried to reconstruct from a small apple, a small pear, a world and the life of entire rural community. So we started many years ago. I mean, my father Livio started, and then by myself also I started with him, and with a research what happens? The first, anyway. Ta-da! Nothing happened. I have to push. Okay. Anyway, the research started in the central area of Italy, between two regions like Tuscany and Umbria, and we started when the world of rural areas were changing. I mean, during the 50s and 60s, all the life changed. I want to go back. I'm sorry. I want to go back. Anyway, all the life of the people changed. Anyway, okay. What happens with the slides? Anyway, the life changed, the rural area, the society, the life of the people changed. So we started to research in this moment, and it was really a race against time, because everything was changing so quickly. So we started where the industrial agriculture was not arrived, like high hills or high hills, mountains, and borders. And of course, we went all over looking for elderly farmers, but unfortunately, we find always more often the abandoned farm, because the farmers, of course, went away. So we visited many places, like, for example, monasteries. Monasteries, especially Benedictine monasteries and abbeys, were really an interesting source of information. You know, Benedict gave his rule just after the end of the Roman Empire, 512. So it means for me, means that the Benedictines were like a bridge between the end of the Roman Empire and the Middle Age. And in their abbeys, in their monasteries, they cultivated, they studied, they made experiments about agriculture, about plants. So they were really a kind of incredible conservatoires, the abbeys. But the thing that we did was not, we searched not only in the ideal places, we searched also in some unexpected places, like an ex-industrial area where we found these incredible peaches that, of course, were cultivated for 3 centuries, and they were so famous that they arrived also to the court of England in some way. They are very famous, but unfortunately at the beginning of the last century, the industrialization came very fast, and the territory was completely transformed, and then the beaches, of course, disappeared, and now also the industry is closed. So you imagine, we explored all the territory, and unfortunately we found in our exploration, we found a lot of orphan plants. Orphan because these plants were cultivated, but the farmers went away, so they remain orphan of their tutors, or the people who selected, who cultivated for centuries. So in this way, they were like mute testimonies. You know, the plants don't speak our language. So what we did was to try to find new words for the plants, to let the plants to tell their long history. So we tried to find these words, and how? We look at, for example, in the of course, in the antique agricultural texts, or in many documents, antique documents, shopping list, family notes, or all kind of documents, really also unexpected documents, where we could find many information. It's not very quickly. Anyway, another incredible source for our research was the historical artistic reproduction, of course, because we, especially during the Renaissance period, the 1500, when Maestro Giorgio Vasari asked, probably demanded to the painters who painted for him, who worked for him, to beholding natural fruits to portray lively pictures of fruit, so of them. So it means that it means that the painters painted very faithful to reality, and what they painted, for sure, they were cultivated in that time in the gardens, around them. So they really reproduced very faithful. So we also looked for the traces on the roads, because it's not true that the plants don't move. They move a lot with the people, of course. So we started to look at the roads, the roads of saints, of traveling friar, or pilgrims, etc. So we also look at, for example, in the antique roads and antique roads and antique maps. So, but of course, the best and the privileged source of our study, our research, they are the the real conservationists, the elderly farmers who had the knowledge, the incredible knowledge about the varieties, the cultivation. So, and it was talking, but above all, listening to them, that we could try to re-establish. But why he's no? It's too important. This. Sorry. Oh, doesn't work. I don't know why. I want, no, after that, okay, the real conservationist, okay, go. So it was very important for us to, okay, thank you, again, Sergio. Okay, again. Okay, this is this. Okay, so we tried to establish the thread of memory between the old and new generation. Of course, the elders could not pass their knowledge to the new generation because the new generation were not interested in this kind of knowledge. So for that, we really hurried to save. And what we saved? We saved dozen varieties of pears, for example. Italy is one of the most important producers in the world for pears. We are the first in Europe. So but now we cultivate 5 varieties for 2 million of tons of production. We cultivated 5 varieties. So in the past we cultivated thousands of varieties, especially of course winter pears, winter varieties, and they of course were completely abandoned because they are small, they need to be cooked to be eaten. So for that they are completely abandoned. And it's a nice story about the winter pear, cooked winter pear. In the past there was a man along the roads who was selling the cooked pear, and the name was peracottaro. Peracottaro means the man who sells the cooked pear. But now it's completely disappeared. If you say to somebody, you are a peracottaro, it's a bad word. Completely a bad word, and nobody can have time to cook the pears, and unfortunately, because it's a very good food, very healthy and very digestible. So many summer pears that are completely abandoned because they are very sensitive to the transportation. Many varieties completely disappeared, and also dozen varieties of apples. Of course, apples is one of the most cultivated cultivated the fruit in the world. So, of course, many varieties have disappeared, but why? Because they are completely out of our idea of apples. You know, you imagine round apple, maximum green or red or yellow. These are completely out of our idea of varieties of apples. So this is an apple, it's not a pear. And many other fruits. Of course, you know, Italy is one of the most important was one of the most important producer of fruits. Figs, peaches. Sorry for the time is not synchronized. Peaches, plums, and cherries, white cherries, unexpected white cherries, or almost white. And a fruit very peculiar was a sour cherry, especially this variety. This variety was very, very famous in the past. Now it's completely abandoned because it's too small. In fact, the Duke of Urbino, Federico da Montefeltro, used to offer to his good friends, who they are, you know, the good friends of the Duke were Piero della Francesca, Paolo Uccello, Luca Pacioli. He offered this kind of wine, the one vino di Visciole, Visciole wine, that was also called meditation wine. Very, very good fruit and very rich in antioxidant and very rich in sorbitol. That is the only sugar that could eaten from the diabetics. So many other fruits, almonds, bitter oranges, and jujube, and dogwood, quinces, sorbs, and medlar. All this research, of course, is also focused on the traditional uses, of course, because this was a part of the knowledge, how to keep, how to maintain, how to process, cooking or under vinegar, for example. It was very traditional. Or roasting bitter orange, for example, or so of course also the system for conservation, and all these things were part of this culture. Sorry. Of how is okay? No, where I can. Ecco, okay. All this great work, of course, was searching, but especially grafting. We saved by grafting the plants, and of course we obtained a great orchard. The orchard of Archaeology Arborea. So this orchard now is 600 plants and 150 varieties, and of course is a great reservoir of biodiversity. But we try to keep especially the memory and the plants, and also to treat the memory for that was broken in the past, and also to thanks. You don't see anything? Okay. Also, to thanks to the farmers who kept for us, who conserved for us all these varieties for us and for the new generation. So, for many years, I received this question: why you did all this kind of work? for romance or nostalgia. So unfortunately, now we have the answer, because the new report of FAO about biodiversity, about the state of the world's biodiversity, is really dramatic. We lost 60% of our resources, and when I say lost, I say forever. So for that, I think that we know that fortunately we did all this kind of job and all this kind of research just for that, for foresight, for the food security, for a sustainable future for agriculture. And I'm convinced that everybody can do something. And we are doing. You are doing something, choosing some special fruit, choosing some peculiar variety, and you can do really something to save biodiversity and to, definitely to save our future. Thank you very much.
So still not the most delicious apple, but the important apple. For those of you who have been with us for a few years, you probably have noticed that we have grown a little bit since our first year. And I remember back when we did our first symposium, I think we had 8 volunteers the first year. And we have now grown to, I think, 25 volunteers from 4 different continents and a lot of different countries. So can all the volunteers please come to the stage? On behalf of the committee, but also on behalf from everyone in this room, thank you very much. And definitely this would not be able to be done without you. And I think what is so wonderful to see as well is that we really have a great diversity amongst our volunteers. On that note, we now are cutting for a short break, so 15 minutes before we are back with the last section. In this break, you might want to use it to go and buy a cap or a t-shirt. I'm kidding.
Yeah, just need 5 minutes to